What's up guys, Brandon Washington here, and in today's video, we're gonna be talking about gear. That's right, we're gonna be talking about the gear that I personally use to make some of the videos that I do professionally, but also I wanna kind of tell you guys a little bit about my journey to collecting this gear. See, a lot of people have the misconception that you have to have great gear in order to actually make a living doing this, which isn't true. It definitely helps. But in the process of telling you guys a little bit about my gear, I'm also gonna tell you guys how I acquired it. And trust me, I didn't go into any debt to collect any of this gear. I personally don't believe in debt. So hopefully if you guys kind of follow the same path that I did, you might be able to pick up some of this gear. And honestly, you could probably pick up even better gear on your own path. But without further ado, let's get into it. Motivational Mondays. All right, so as you guys can clearly see, there's quite a bit of gear, and that is not even all of it, but this is not something that I was just able to pick up in a day or a week or a month or even in a year's time. This is gear that I've been collecting honestly over the past 7 years. Now, some of the gear obviously is newer than others, but this is something that it has taken me a lot of time to be able to acquire, and I'm still not quite exactly where I want to be. But I wanted to make this video not really to show off the type of gear that I have, but more so just to kind of answer the question that I get a lot of times on my Instagram, and that's, you know, what all gear do you have? But then also I kind of wanted to show you guys like kind of my journey, like where I started and then to where I've gotten to, and how pretty much nothing but hard work and determination has pretty much gotten me there. So the other day, I actually posted this photo on my Instagram story, but I found this photo via my Facebook. It's a little embarrassing, but this is actually a photo from me from about 7 years ago. Now, in this image, it's really funny. It's actually one of my first cameras, not my first camera, but one of my first DSLRs. It is the Canon T3i. Back then, it was one of the first Canon cameras that had a flip out screen, so I definitely had to get that. And then you also see here, I had built a Steadicam out of like some plumbing pipes and like a block of wood and just some, you know, cheap like weights. I found this like DIY Steadicam online somewhere, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can get steady shots. I have to have this. Now, mind you, this is before the world of gimbals, where Steadicams were pretty much the only way to get steady shots. But this is kind of really brought me back home. I show you guys this image to show you guys like this is kind of where I started from, you know. I kind of was making videos back in the days where you had to either have DIY equipment or you had to spend a ton of money on equipment. And so I say this saying that I know exactly where a lot of you guys are coming from. It's not easy to invest a lot of money in this when you're first getting started. And that's perfectly fine. You know, you will build your arsenal of gear as you go. Just don't let what you currently have stop you from continuing to make more and more videos. So first of all, let's go over some of the cameras that I use, and then we'll kind of go through some of my lenses and other gear. So first of all, my main camera is the Canon 1DX Mark II. As a lot of you guys know, this is my main camera. It's all over my Instagram, but I absolutely love this camera. It's a phenomenal video camera, phenomenal photography camera. It's everything I need in one body, which was really important to me, and the reason why I chose this camera over all the other cameras that were out there. I just wanted one camera that I could pick up and pretty much go do any job with. Now, my secondary camera is the camera I owned before my 1DX, and that is my 80D. That's actually the camera I use to make all of these YouTube videos. So even though I have a 1DX Mark II, that's not the camera I use for my YouTube videos, strictly because it's really big. It doesn't have a flip out screen, so I can't really monitor myself while I'm doing the video. And it's just, I don't know, it's just my personal preference. I prefer to make my YouTube videos on the 80D. I just don't need anything as massive as the 1DX in order to make just YouTube videos like this. Now, some secondary cameras that you might throw into the mix. I have a GoPro Session. I have my cell phone, obviously, which I use my cell phone quite a bit for some of my videos, especially behind the scenes, stuff like that. But those are my primary cameras. Now, next to cameras, the next thing that's nearest and dearest to my heart is my drone. Now, I have a Phantom 3 4K. It's kind of my backup drone just in case anything were to ever happen to my baby, which is my DJI Mavic. Now, the DJI Mavic is by far my favorite drone. In the last year, I've actually flown quite a few drones. I've flown some of the unique drones. I've flown the DJI Phantom 4 Pro. I've actually done reviews on that one. And then obviously the DJI Mavic, I've flown a Spark. And I mean, a handful of drones here and there between people I've met and tried them out and bought and returned and things like that. And it pretty much just keeps coming back to the DJI Mavic. The fact of how portable this thing is and how easily it can fit in my Pelican case with the rest of my gear, it is just a perfect godsend when it comes to always being ready to capture great drone footage. On top of that, the battery life is pretty good. You get about 20 to 25 minutes per battery, and it's absolutely amazing, and I love it so much. It is by far my favorite piece of gear in my kit, and my 1DX actually comes in at second place, surprisingly. I just absolutely could not live without my DJI Mavic. All right, so next thing, let's jump into lenses. Now, when it comes to lenses, I don't believe in having just tons and tons of lenses. Lenses, as most of you guys know, are very expensive, especially if you want really good glass. And so that's one thing I will say. I don't really invest in cheap lenses. I want all my lenses to be either red ring lenses or cinema lenses or just very expensive high caliber lenses. So I have a 50mm 1.2. I have the 16 to 35 2.8, I have the 70 to 200, and right now I have the 100mm macro lens, non-stabilized. Now that is the one lens that I'm definitely going to be upgrading next. I want to upgrade that to the stabilized version, but as of right now, those are the lenses that I use pretty much on a daily basis. Anything else, I'll just rent it. Now that we've got those things out of the way, the next things that I like to really kind of focus on as far as my gear goes are all of my stabilizers. Now, stabilizers, in my opinion, are extremely important when it comes to shooting. There's no better dead giveaway of amateur work than unsteady footage. And so whether that is my DJI Ronin or my Zhiyun Crane, which I know I'm saying that wrong, but I just don't know the right way to pronounce that, or if that's my sliders or even just my tripods, it's so important to have really, really good stabilized footage. And so you want to make sure that you have some type of stabilizers. Now, a lot of people think about stabilizers and they just think about like the Ronins or the Cranes, but really, if you can just get a really good tripod with a video fluid head, which is the most important thing. The video fluid head is what actually allows you to get that really smooth pans and tilts. You can get some amazing footage with just a tripod, and you'll be surprised how many times a tripod is about the only thing I bring on set in order to get great B-roll shots. Now, what is a filmmaker without his computer? So as far as my computing goes, I use a Apple MacBook Pro with Retina display and touch bar. I have the 15-inch model. It's pretty much maxed out except for storage, because when it comes to storage, I pretty much use everything on my external hard drives. So I have a G-RAID hard drive that is 6 terabytes, and I have another one that is 8 terabytes, and then I have all these small little hard drives here and there. They're all really great hard drives, especially for archiving footage. I am definitely a footage hoarder. I don't delete anything, so I'm pretty much always buying new hard drives to archive my footage. But probably my most favorite hard drive right now is actually this little bitty Samsung solid state drive. This thing is incredibly fast. It's really easy to move footage to it and move footage off of it. And it's also really great for editing. So if you guys are looking for a good portable hard drive, this is definitely a great hard drive to try out. Now, when it comes to the way that I actually do all of my editing, pretty much I do most of my stuff from my desk, even though I do have a laptop so that I can be portable. Because I'm working off all these hard drives, most of the time I'm tethered to my desk. For that, I have these 2 HP monitors, which pretty much just work as dual screens for me. That way I can have my editing station up on one hand, and then on the other screen I can have, you know, YouTube or analytics or whatever else going at the same time. Or sometimes when I'm editing, I'll even just do dual screen, have one for my timeline and have the other for the actual playback. Clearly, I can't get into every little detail as far as gear I have. Obviously, there's all these small little knickknacks like cages and ND filters, and there's loads and loads of other stuff that I'll probably be doing videos on in the future. But I wanted to make this video to show you guys that, I mean, don't forget about this picture. This is where I came from. This is where filmmaking started for me, and it literally started with a camera. I had like a really old 13-inch MacBook Pro at the time, and it had iMovie on there, and for the most part it was all I had, and it's what I had to make the videos on. Now I know this sounds like a lot of gear, and I mean, trust me, there's even more small stuff like ND filters and accessories for my drones and batteries and all this other madness. And if you guys want to know more about that stuff, definitely let me know in the comments below. But the biggest things that I wanted to touch on is that this gear, although it is great that I have it and it definitely helps me to make more videos, it is not the reason why I have the gear. See, in today's world, when it comes to videography, just about anybody can invest in gear. Gear is great, but gear is tangible. Anybody can get that. If you are looking to stand out as a videographer in today's market, it is all about your work. See, the only reason why I have the gear that I have now is because I've done jobs that are basically paid for that gear. None of my gear was bought on credit, except my very first camera. I will say that. My very first camera was bought on credit, but other than that, everything else has been bought cash. And that is because I want my gear to earn itself. It doesn't make sense to go into debt in order to make videos. Now I know there's the stigma that you got to spend money to make money, but honestly, with the ease of being able to rent gear as needed, or being able to connect with other filmmakers and work with them and kind of partner with them and possibly use some of their gear in exchange for their service and whatnot, there's really no reason to go into major debt. However, buying gear should always be something you're thinking about, because it should make your process of shooting easier. See, the whole reason why I buy gear and the reason why I invest in the gear that I buy is because I want gear that makes my job easier. I want different lenses so I can get better looks and ultimately make better videos. I bought the computer I bought because I wanted my editing process to be as smooth and simple as possible. I've got the audio equipment I have because I want to make sure that when I'm working with clients that I don't have to spend a ton of time trying to fix post-processed audio and just be able to have great audio right out of the shoot. So the reason why you should be buying the gear that you're buying is because it's going to make your process easier. So although now, yes, we've looked at the gear that I have, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the same gear you should have. I have a Mavic because I want something that's portable and easy to travel with. But if drone photography and drone video is your main source of income and you're all about the quality of the image, then you should definitely invest in something like an Inspire, for example. That way you can get the most out of it. See, the jobs that I do don't require that much from drone. However, the Inspire, or whether you go with the Mavic, or whether you have a 1DX or you have a T3i, never let any of that stop you from creating. That way you can continue to grow and acquire more gear and continue to do what you love, which, as if you're a follower of this channel, I'm assuming that's gotta be filmmaking or photography. So thank you guys again so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. If you thought it was great and you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Also, I'll have links to everything that I talked about down in the descriptions. That way, if you guys want to check those out, you absolutely can. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.